Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic, coding well, and today I'll be doing a review of a film called The Last Vermeer, which is a film that was indeed sent to me by Sony to review, so shout out to Sony for sending that my way, but all of my thoughts are my own, and no one has approved anything as far as my opinions of the movie. Just wanted to get that out of the way, and again, shout out to Sony. So this film, pretty interesting stuff. It is a historical drama film. It deals with the story of Han van Meegeren, which I'm sure I'm butchering, played brilliantly by Guy Pearce, who is historically known for swindling the Nazis out of millions of dollars by selling them essentially fake paintings from a famous Dutch painter, Johannes Vermeer, and he is considered by many to be essentially the most successful art forger of all time. And this film, obviously with that, precursor, could have been a really amazing movie. Could have been a great period drama film. Could have been Oscar bait material, like, those kind of Oscar bait films, which, some of them are just typical Oscar bait, but there's others that are actually well-made movies. I don't really think this film fits either of those categories because The Last Vermeer really is honestly a story of two different films, and the biggest issue comes down to the screenplay. But before getting into the screenplay, let's just talk about the positives, which is essentially everything else. As I said, Guy Pearce does a great job as this leading character of Han van Meegeren. You also have a great, a great cast of other people too. It says he has Claes Bang. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing these people's names correctly. Vicky Krieps, Roland Moller, August Diehl. All of these actors are top notch. They're all at the top of their game. Guy Pearce, I think, obviously is the best out of all of them, but every single one of them is great. There's not really a weak link among any of the actors in this. It is competently directed. It is well put together as far as the costuming and production design, right? You really do feel like you are within this 1940s era of Europe. So you really, honestly, are really getting that out of the production design here. So shout out to them. The score also is quite compelling too. It is done by Johan Sudervist. Again, probably butchering that as well. But again, a pretty well done score. Nothing too memorable, right? Nothing like a John Williams caliber, but I think definitely still serviceable for the story and I think supporting everything that's going on around it. But even with all these different technical elements that are really going for it, it's the screenplay, it's the story, and it makes some sense when you realize that this is adapted from a novel, and it was adapted by 3 people. And whenever you see a screenplay with multiple people behind it, it's not always guaranteed to be messy, but normally when it does end up being messy, it's because of the multiple names on it, because it means that there were multiple cooks in the kitchen, and so you had different stories essentially trying to be told. And it really is, in this case, actually very neatly broken up into 2 halves. There's the first half of the movie, which is a complete and utter bore, and they actually try to make things exciting just for the sake of making them exciting. There's this whole sequence where they're essentially trying to break Han van Meegeren. They're trying to break Guy Pearce's character out of a prison, and they try and make it more dramatic than what it actually is. And the whole time, my wife and I watching it, thinking to ourselves, wait, is this supposed to be exciting? And wait, are they really trying to make this into like a chase sequence when there really is no reason for a chase sequence at this point? And it just doesn't make sense, especially within the framework of what the film and what the story are trying to tell. So it was kind of odd to see that happen. And so that's kind of where the beginning origins of the film start. And then it goes on and it introduces the characters. They have back and forth between especially Guy Pearce's character and the other lead, who plays the character of Captain Joseph Pillar. And again, there are some interesting things mentioned in that conversation. One of my favorite things that comes from the Guy Pearce character is about how art is essentially a crock, about how you have just a very few select amount of art critics who give value to paintings, who give value to artwork, and we just magically believe them, and people magically want to own them and spend millions upon millions of dollars for it, when there are tons of people out there who are incredibly talented as well, but their work either doesn't get noticed or doesn't get given value at all, because again, it doesn't fit into this framework. Again, I kind of like that commentary that he had in there about that. But that's like the first half of the movie. It's just like this weird back and forth, and then they introduce relationships. Like everyone's having issues with their wife, basically, in this movie, right? Everyone is either in the process of having been divorced, like Migarin's character had been. The other lead character, Captain Joseph Pillar, he's having issues with his wife as well, and then maybe kind of doing stuff with this other woman who also has a husband. It's like there's a whole time, like there's people all together. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, you know, they have a husband, they have a wife, they have a husband, they have a wife. So it was just kind of just nonstop weird relationships just popping up in that first half. And again, very dry and very boring stuff. And not even like good, like dry setup to something bigger later on. It was just not well right. You know, it just wasn't well written. And it wasn't very compelling. Now, then there is this second half, and it really was the second half. I remember that my wife and I, we paused the film at one point, and then all of a sudden when we came back, we're like, oh, it's like an entirely different movie, because essentially they get to this courthouse sequence. And in the courthouse sequence, essentially they're trying to prove that the Guy Pearce's character was not involved with the Nazis. That was not a friend to them, right? He sold art to them, he had parties with them, but it was because he was trying to swindle them out of money. But obviously the Dutch government doesn't want to view it that way. They instead want to essentially find him guilty and kill him because they just don't like him. Which is what it comes down to. So the whole court sequence actually was fantastic. Guy Pearce on his game, doing great work. Like there's a lot of funny moments in the trial, which I found, you know, very fascinating. Also, it was riveting writing. Like you were actually interested and intrigued by the story. You were at that point finally in the film where you're like, oh, this is what the movie was trying to do. The movie was trying to get us to this location, but they had to put something in the beginning so that the film wasn't just an hour or 45 minutes long. And so they gave us an extra hour's worth of exposition, which was done very poorly and was incredibly boring. So that second half was actually a pretty good movie, which actually had a lot of compelling stuff to it, had some twists and turns, and was overall pretty well done. Again, still having the good cinematography, good music, good acting, etc., but the writing finally caught up to those technical elements. The sad thing, though, is that that first half is still there. And so my wife and I very much were on agreement on it, saying, hey, this really was two movies, one of which was really not that good. From a writing standpoint, it sucked, for lack of a better expression. The first half, the writing just was not good. And then the second half was really well done writing, but we do agree also that the other technical elements were always there from beginning to end. And so in the end, you have a film that I think some people might like. If you are a big fan of history, and maybe you've never heard of this character before, of Han van Meegeren, and you're interested maybe in art history, maybe you're interested in Johannes Vermeer as well, and maybe you never knew that there were fake Vermeer paintings out there, this film might be for you, because it goes into kind of his history and goes into his character and you know, kind of like what happened to him and what was going on at that time in history. If you're interested in just things that surround the World War II era, and this time it's focusing not in the typical countries that you would, but instead it's focusing in Holland, right, with the Dutch government, which again was kind of interesting because I typically don't watch, you know, typically there aren't a lot of World War II films that deal, one, with art, but two, with a country that typically people don't think about a whole lot when you actually mention anything with World War II. So if that's the kind of stuff that is, that is interesting to you, you might actually like this movie. It is based on true events, as it says, again, based on another novel. This is available currently on Blu-ray and on DVD. They sent me the DVD copy, and it was available as of February 23rd, so this is indeed still on sale. But overall, I would say, right, two different movies here. First one, not so good. Second one, second half, pretty compelling, pretty fun stuff. And I guess you technically have to get through that first half for all the things they mentioned to make sense. But to be honest, I think that you possibly could. I think a case could be made that you could watch the last 45 minutes to an hour where they start the courtroom scene and probably still be able to pick up mostly of what was going on and the characters and the relationships with them, and you would be fine and you would enjoy it because, again, I think Guy Pearce does a great job. So with that, I'm going to give this film a C-. Again, it's an average movie. It's fine. Again, it's got all those technical elements. It gets great performance from Guy Pearce. To be honest, if this was, I think that Guy Pearce could potentially see some award nominations from this performance, because I do think it was that good, because he's a fantastic actor. It's just sad that the writing for the first half just does not really match up to what he brought to the table, what the other actors brought to the table, and what the rest of the production team brought to the table as well. But anyway, C- for The Last Vermeer. Have you seen this movie, though? Let me know your thoughts. And you know anything about maybe this person from history? Do you know anything about Vermeer? Do you know anything about this dude right here, Han van Meegeren? Again, I'm probably butchering that name. And again, if you're interested in it, it is now currently available. Let me know your thoughts about all these things in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button. It really does mean a lot. Please support me over on Minds.com and over on Odyssey, because as we all know, YouTube sucks. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my March Patreon members: Andrew Hoyle, Animation Commentator, Brian P., Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, The Honky Chonky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Intertrap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jay, Jeffrey Toon, Jonathan Carney, Laura the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, on to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benden, Tina Bojan, and of course the Empress of the Universe, Tina B. Thank you all very much for being my Patreon members. And now a shout out to all of my Subscribe Star members: Stan 4, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nebanon G. Adams, and ZK Man. And Dion, thank you all so very much for being my Subscribe Star members, and to everyone who has been supportive of the channel. Of course, a shout out to my YouTube members, and you all know that you get your special perks every single time that we do a live stream, so thank you again for your support. If you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every single live stream and at the end of every single video, please check out the links in the description below to become a Patreon or Subscribe Star member today. You're going to also get access to things at the upper tiers, like a bi-weekly podcast that I do with my friend John the Flick Pick Flickinger. We also, of course, have a Chosen of Valhalla live stream once a month, where me and my Chosen come together on this channel to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about. So anyway, if all that stuff sounds interesting to you, please check out the links below. You guys are amazing, beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.